Snow had been falling since dawn, soft and steady, the kind that made the world look quieter than it really was. Christmas Eve always did that, wrapped noise in white and made even hard places seem gentle. Mrs. Dave pulled her thin coat tighter around her shoulders as she stepped out of the bus, her breath turning to fog in the cold air. She had lived in this city for 37 years, long enough to know that beauty and cruelty often shared the same streets. She was small now, smaller than she used to be, her back curved by time and work. Her hands, red and cracked from winter, clutched a canvas shopping bag that held a loaf of bread, a can of soup, and a small wrapped box tied with green string. The box wasn't for her. It was for her granddaughter, Lily, who lived 3 states away and would open it on Christmas morning while Mrs. Dave waited by the phone, hoping for a call. The sidewalk glittered with ice near the luxury shopping district, where glass storefronts reflected the lights strung overhead. Laughter spilled from expensive restaurants. Music floated out when doors opened. Mrs. Dave walked carefully, eyes down, measuring each step. She had learned to move like this after a fall 2 winters ago that left her hip aching when the cold came. She almost made it past the corner. A black sports car purred at the curb, its engine humming like a satisfied animal. 3 young men stood nearby, coats sharp, shoes spotless, voices loud with the confidence money brings. They were laughing about something on a phone, barely noticing the world beyond their circle. Mrs. Dave tried to slip around them. She didn't see the ice. Her foot slid out, and the bag flew from her hand. She fell hard, the sound of her body hitting the ground swallowed by the music and traffic. Pain shot through her hip and up her spine. The loaf of bread rolled toward the curb. The green-tied box skidded to a stop near one of the men's shoes. She gasped, trying to push herself up, but her arms shook. "I'm sorry," she said automatically, not even sure why. Years of apologizing had made the word instinctive. One of the men looked down, annoyed. "Watch where you're going," he said. "I didn't." Her voice trembled. "The ice." Another man nudged the box with his foot. "What's this? Charity case, drop her treasure." They laughed. Mrs. Dave reached for the box, her fingers just inches away. The third man stepped forward and kicked it out of reach, harder this time. It slid across the ice and cracked against the curb. Something inside shifted, fragile, breaking soundlessly. "Please," she said, the word small but heavy. "That's for my granddaughter." The laughter stopped, but not because of shame. One of them frowned, irritation flickering across his face as if her need were an inconvenience. "Get up and get it yourself." She tried. Her leg buckled, pain blooming sharp and hot. She cried out despite herself. And then one of them did something that would stay with her forever. He kicked her. Not hard enough to cause serious injury, not hard enough to draw blood, but enough. Enough to steal breath, enough to humiliate, enough to remind her exactly how powerless she was in that moment. "Move," he said, "you're blocking the sidewalk." For a second, the world narrowed to pain and cold and the sound of her own breathing. She tasted salt and copper, tears freezing on her cheeks. Around them, people passed. Some glanced, some looked away, some pretended not to see at all. Christmas lights blinked overhead, indifferent. Then the air changed. It wasn't loud at first. Just the deep, controlled sound of boots on pavement. Steady, purposeful, the kind of walk that didn't rush but didn't hesitate either. A shadow fell across the ice. "Step back." The voice was calm, low, and carried a weight that made people listen before they knew why. The men turned. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a plain dark coat that did nothing to hide the strength beneath it. His hair was short, his face weathered in a way that spoke of places far from polished streets. Beside him stood a German shepherd, large and alert, ears forward, eyes sharp. The dog was still, but there was power in that stillness, a coiled readiness that made even the confident men shift uneasily. "This doesn't concern you," one of them said, though his tone lacked its earlier edge. The man's eyes flicked to Mrs. Dave, then to the broken box by the curb, then back to them. "It does now." The dog took a single step forward, nails clicking softly on the ice. No growl, no bark, just presence. "You kicked her," the man said. "It wasn't a question." "She fell," another man snapped. "Not our problem." The man reached into his coat slowly, deliberately. The men stiffened. He pulled out a wallet and flipped it open just enough for them to see the edge of a military ID. "Name's Aaron Cole," he said. "Retired Navy SEAL." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He didn't have to. Silence settled heavy between them. "And this," he added, resting a hand lightly on the dog's collar, "is Max." Max's tail swayed once. The men glanced at each other. Money had taught them many things, but not how to handle this kind of presence. Not how to look at a man who had learned violence so deeply that he no longer needed to advertise it. "Let's go," one muttered. They backed away, pride bruised but intact enough to retreat. The sports car door slammed. The engine roared louder than before, and then they were gone, tires hissing over snow. The world rushed back in. The music, the traffic, the lights. Aaron knelt beside Mrs. Dave. "Careful, slow." "Ma'am," he said gently. "Are you hurt?" She nodded, then shook her head, unsure which was true. "My hip," she whispered. "And my box. I've got it." He stood, retrieved the box, and frowned at the cracked corner. "We'll see what we can do." He offered his arm. "Let's get you off the ice." With effort and his steady support, she stood. Pain flared, but she didn't fall. Max pressed close on her other side, warm and solid, as if he understood exactly what she needed. They moved to a bench near a shop window filled with silver ornaments and tiny glowing houses. Aaron eased her down carefully. "Thank you," she said, the words spilling out in a rush. "I didn't know. No one." "You don't have to explain," he said. He checked her leg with practiced eyes, asking permission before touching, his movements respectful. "I don't think anything's broken," he said after a moment. "But you shouldn't walk far." She looked at the box in his hands. "It was a music box," she said softly. "Lily loves music." It played. "Silent Night." "It's silly, I know." "It's not silly," he said. He opened the box carefully. The small wooden lid was cracked, but the inside mechanism was intact. He wound it gently. The first notes wavered, then steadied, soft and familiar. "Mrs. Dave" covered her mouth as tears spilled over again, this time for a different reason. Aaron smiled, just a little. "Still works." She laughed through her tears. "Thank you. Thank you so much." He waved it off. "It's Christmas Eve," he said. "Seems like the right thing to do." She studied him, the lines around his eyes, the quiet strength. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Not just here, but here." He considered the question. "I came home from my last deployment 2 years ago," he said. Didn't quite know how to be still after that. Max helped. Walking helps. Max's ears twitched at his name. They sat for a moment, the music box playing. Softly between them. "I live just a few blocks away, Mrs. Dave said finally. "I can make it." Slowly. Aaron shook his head. "I'll walk you." "You don't have to." "I know." They moved together down the street, their pace careful. The city seemed different now, edges softened. People smiled as they passed, some nodding at Max, others at the unlikely pair. At her building, a modest brick walk up, Aaron helped her inside. The stairwell smelled of old paint and pine cleaner. He paused at the bottom of the stairs. "This is far enough," he said. She hesitated, then reached out and squeezed his hand. "You didn't just help me up," she said. "You reminded me that the world hasn't gone completely hard." He swallowed, something shifting behind his eyes. "You reminded me why it matters." Upstairs, Mrs. Dave settled into her worn armchair, the music box on the table beside her. She watched the snow through the window, hard lighter than it had been in years. Across the city, Aaron and Max continued their walk. They passed churches and shelters, quiet homes and crowded bars. At one corner, they stopped where volunteers were serving hot meals. Aaron handed over some cash, then more, until the volunteer tried to stop him. "Make sure everyone gets seconds," he said. Later, at a small park, they found a man huddled on a bench, shivering. Aaron gave him his gloves. Max leaned in, offering warmth. It wasn't planned. It wasn't heroic. It was just momentum, the kind that starts when one small act of courage breaks something open. On Christmas morning, Mrs. Dave's phone rang. Lily's voice burst through the line, excited and bright. "Grandma, the music box plays my favorite song." Mrs. Dave closed her eyes, smiling. I know, sweetheart. That afternoon, Aaron sat alone in his apartment, Max at his feet, the quiet comfortable. He thought of the woman on the ice, of the way fear had shifted to relief, then to something like hope. He realized that for the first time since leaving the teams, he felt steady. The world hadn't changed overnight. There were still bullies in expensive coats, still people who looked away. But there were also moments, small, powerful moments, when someone stepped in, when kindness interrupted cruelty. And sometimes, that was enough to start a chain reaction no one could stop. Outside, snow continued to fall, soft and steady, covering old marks, making room for new ones.